Okay, so first we're going to start with some stretches to warm up our muscles, and then we're going to go into some yoga poses. You'll see that I'm using an aromatherapy heating pad or a neck wrap, and I use that to warm up my neck and shoulder muscles while I'm doing the initial set of stretches. So you'll see the first stretch I'm doing there, I'm pulling my neck down into my chest. And I do that for about 30 seconds. Generally I do each position for about 30 seconds. And I count those by counting my breaths. So I'll count 1 on an inhale and then 2 on an exhale. So 1, 2, 3, 4 for 30 seconds. So now you can see I transitioned into my second stretch, which is basically pulling my head down onto my shoulders. So first I'll do the right hand side, where I do the neck down to the chest for 30 seconds, and then the side of my head, touching my ear to my shoulder for 30 seconds. And then you'll see that I switch over and do those same exercises on the other side. So yeah, so I adjust the neck wrap a little bit there to kind of make room, and then pull my chin down onto my chest. And when I do that, I sort of splay my hand out, put it on the back of my head to get a nice stretch in my hand as well. And you'll see that, I'll kind of point that out with some of the other stretches, because I like to stretch out my neck, my shoulders, my back, and also my hands and my arms, because I do a lot of typing, so I find that particular positions with my hands also sort of helps give them a nice stretch as well. So with all these stretches, take your time to kind of work up to what you see in the video. If there's anything that is a little difficult at first, like if you aren't able to, in this stretch here, if you can't actually touch your ear down onto your shoulder, just kind of go as close as you can and gradually work up to it. Obviously you don't want to hurt yourself, so do the stretch for a smaller amount of time, or don't try to match exactly, and modify it a little bit, but certainly try to work up to what I'm doing if you can. So the next stretch I do here is I actually just tense my neck muscles. It looks a little silly, but what I'm doing is I'm just kind of tensing up my neck like that and holding it for 30 seconds. You have to be a little careful with that one, not to hyperventilate, but okay. And then the next stretch I'm doing, I stretch my arms out on the couch to open up my chest, and then I turn my head all the way to the right, sort of as far as it can go, and I hold that for 30 seconds again, which I measure as 15 inhales and 15 exhales. So again, look and hold my neck as far to the right as I can for 30 seconds, and then when that's done, I do the same thing and look to the left for 30 seconds. Again, sort of stretching it out, turning my head as far as I can. That one really helps with your range of motion. If you have neck injuries, you won't be able to turn your head all the way to one side. So doing that and stretching it out improves your range of motion and can help with those sort of injuries. And again, that'll take time to improve there. If you do have an injury or you don't have full range of motion, you should hopefully see a little improvement each time you do it. Next up, I do some shoulder shrugs, and I keep the heat wrap on to add a little weight to it and also just continue heating up my muscles. So these are, shoulder shrugs, pretty self-explanatory. I think I do about 30 of these as well. And those are, good exercise, good stretches. One of the nice thing about all of my exercises is you don't even need the heat wrap. You don't need any equipment. You can just do it, at work or at home, because they're all just simple stretches and yoga poses that you don't really need anything special to do. This one is the doorway stretch, and you don't need a doorway. You can just use a wall. And I start this one by leaning against a doorway, and you can sort of see where I position my thumbs a little bit, because at one point in time I had a thumb injury, so I try to avoid putting too much strain on my thumbs. So you start by leaning against a doorway with your arms in sort of the middle position there, and with my head, I push my head all the way down, and I touch my chin to my neck so that I stretch my head and my neck down in that position. And I hold that pose, this pose here, I hold for 30 seconds or 15 or 30 breaths. And then you'll see I did the same doorway stretch, but I put my arms higher up on the door, and then I alter my head so that I'm, instead of looking down, now I'm looking up to stretch my neck in the different direction. This is a great stretch. It always feels really good when I do that one. Okay, the next exercise, I lay down on my belly and I point my thumbs upward like that. And then I just sort of start flapping my arms up and down. And this is similar to the shoulder shrugs. This one's a really good exercise to work your shoulders and build strength in your shoulders and back. And I do about between 30 and 60 of these, depending how you count. And I do, with this one, I use the heat wrap that I have to kind of put my face in that so that my face isn't right down in the carpet. Okay, so here we're transitioning into the yoga poses. So we've finished the warm-up, and now we're kind of doing the actual exercise yoga poses. This is the most strenuous part of the workout. So here I'm doing a couple sort of my take on sun salutations. I do 6 in total. The first 2, you can see here, this is number 2. I kind of do a little push-up going into this stretch here, and then hold that for about 6 seconds, and then push back and hold that one for 6 seconds. And I do 2 of those, and then here you'll see I do a different variation where when I stretch back, I lower myself to the floor and then push the front of my body up and just look, lift my head and neck and look as far up as I can for 6 seconds, and then push back into this pose again for another 6 seconds. So it's a pattern where I do 2 with the push-ups and then 2 with the stretches. So here, this is number 4, so it's the second one, second and last one, where I lower myself down to the ground and push up into the stretch. And then you'll see after this one, I start doing the push-ups again. And I alternate which foot I come up on. So here you can see I go down on my right foot into a push-up, and then I stay up in the stretch, and then push back for 6 seconds. And then when I come up, you'll notice I use my right foot, and then I'm gonna do it again, but this time I go back with my left foot and come up with my left foot, push up into the stretch. Okay, another yoga pose. This one is called Cobra, and basically you lift your, you lay down and then you lift your head and your hands up. I do, again, display my fingers to give my fingers a nice good stretch. And I do this Cobra for 60 seconds. The first 20, you can see I actually lift my feet up off the ground to kind of work my feet a little bit, hold those up for 20 seconds, and then give them a rest for 20 seconds. But the whole time I'm keeping my upper body up off the floor. And then for the final 20 seconds, I lift my feet back up again. Yeah, this pose is pretty hard, so you'll see me collapse when I'm done. I never look forward to this one. Yeah. Oh. And kind of take a breather for a minute to gather myself before I move on to the next one. Next I kind of roll over, and then I do a bridge to stretch my back out. You can see I touched the tip of my fingers to my heels, and then I lift my back up as high into the air as I can. In this particular video, it doesn't look like I'm actually going up that high. I'm not sure if it's just a trick of the camera or if I wasn't really pushing myself. But typically, I always try to really lift my butt up off the floor and, push my butt as high into the air as I can to really get a good stretch with this one. And I think this one I do for 60 seconds as well. I try to hold this for 60 seconds. Okay, next I try to work my abs a bit. Sometimes I'll just do sit-ups here, but in this video I'm doing leg lifts. And I also work my arms a little bit too. But again, kind of the point here is just to work my abs a little bit. Kind of departs a little bit from the theme of most of these exercises, which are centered around neck and back strength and improving range of motion there. But here, just trying to tighten up the abs a little bit. So the exercise after this is a pretty advanced one, and it's certainly kind of the most dangerous one that I do. So if you're new to yoga and you do want to attempt it, definitely work up to it and kind of be a little cautious at first. So you can see right now, kind of after I've worked my abs, I always take a long cool down period here, because if I go right into the next yoga pose, which is a bridge, without giving myself a sufficient break, my abs can cramp up and it really hurts. So I take an extended pause here, and this is actually called corpse pose in yoga, which is basically what you see here, just kind of lying flat on the ground. I'm supposed to have my hands flat against the ground. So, you know, just sort of recover, give my abs a nice chance to cool down so that I'm not pushing them too much too soon. And then when I'm ready to do the tower, I start by lifting my legs up over my head right here. So that kind of gives me a nice stretch, and you can see I have my hands flat against the floor. This one feels so good to just really stretch your back out, you know, and it's a pretty unique stretch there. And then when I'm ready to go for the tower, I put my bring my arms up to help support my legs and hold my legs up, and then for 30 seconds, and then transition back down again. Yeah, so just a few more stretches to cool down. At this point, we're almost done. First I'm going to stretch my spine out by turning my body all the way to the right. You can see I use one hand, my left hand, to help push my body into the stretch. So my left hand is helping to turn my body, and then with my other hand I have my fingers splayed out, pushing against the ground to kind of dig in and anchor myself. So here I'm, you know, sort of twisting my spine all the way to the right. Again, you know, kind of work on range of motion and improve that. And do that for 30 seconds. And then I go ahead and I do the other side. And at this point, all the hard stuff is done, and I'm just doing, you know, some cool down at this point, just some final stretches before I'm done. So do that for 30 seconds, and then I think this one's downward dog. Just kind of push my nose, you know, down against the ground, and stretch my back out. And I do this one for 60 seconds, but first I just kind of do it nice relaxing 30 seconds. Just kind of let all the tension and the stress out, you know, and so, you know, that's pretty good, nice and relaxing for the first 30 seconds. And then you'll see here, I do another 30 seconds where I dig my fingertips into the carpet, and I'm actually pulling with my arm to sort of try and extend my spine a little bit to get a little better stretch there. And again, do that one for 30 seconds. And then I shift forward onto my knees, jump up, and I'm all done. So that's about it. I hope this helps you guys. I do these exercises between 2 and 3 times a week, and you know, I had a lot of issues, a lot of neck and back pain, and these really helped. You know, I kind of arrived at this routine through a little bit of trial and error, and you know, I do it regularly, and generally speaking, I don't have any problems, and you know, it really does the trick. So thanks, good luck.